We are happy to announce that this episode of the SWW show is partially brought to you by Humble Bundle. Well, not really. We are part of the Humble Bundle referral program, and we just wanted to say that if you like really cheap games and maybe helping charity pending the Humble thing going on, all you have to do is go to humblebundle.com/?partner equals SWW. That's right, humblebundle.com/?partner equals SWW. And you just do your normal stuff, and it just kind of helps us get a couple bucks here and there. Maybe it helps AJ get his lights, maybe it's Mike camera, maybe we actually pay Corey for helping us out. But again, if you're going to go buy games anyway, it might be worth checking out. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to one of these interview episodes of the SWW show. I'm Mike, and today with me a special guest from, as we were just establishing, decently around the world. To get us started, do you mind introducing yourself in the game we're here to talk about?
Yeah, of course. Hey guys, I'm Leon. I'm the CEO of Crystal Fox, a video game company that's situated in Germany. And we're currently working on our first game, Calling Home, which just released in last December.
Perfect. Yeah, you are an early access game. We're going to touch on that in a second. To get us started, do you mind kind of... So, as you said, you guys are Crystal Fox. I'm assuming GmbH that's listed on Steam is like the legal indicator at the end of it. Do you guys...
Welcome to Germany, basically.
Makes sense. It's kind of one of those, I'm assuming that's what it is, because like America, we also have like, you see a lot of companies with like LLC at the end of them. So it's kind of like... But to get started, do you mind talking about what is Crystal Fox? As you said, you're part of Crystal Fox. Kind of, this is it looks like your guys' first game coming out on Steam. What's kind of the history of you and the team?
So basically, in early 2022, Janina and I were working for the same company, a private university, and we were sitting together and we're like, man, I wish I could do something more in line with my studies. So for her, it's game art. For me, it's games programming. And while we were talking, we came to the conclusion that we were still in an age range where we could take kind of big risk in opening up a studio ourselves. And even if the studio would fail in the end, we wouldn't endanger some kind of family or kids or something like that. And we got home. We asked some of our friends if they wanted to join. Jan and Marcel said, hey, I'm in. They worked for a video game company themselves already in the German vicinity. And that's really about the most boring but adventure spirit-ridden story how we got our game company together. We then quickly laid out a prototype plan. Normally, we wanted to go into early access in late 2023 already. That worked out not at all, so we did a 1-year uptime for that. And work on the same game with 4 people for the last more or less 2 years now.
Wow, no, that sounds great. So I also want to start with the obvious thing of congratulating you on actually hitting timelines. I feel like games as developers we never hit timelines because just stuff naturally happens, and it is pretty impressive. You're like, okay, release this thing Q4 23, and it came out. You guys are in early access, actively on Steam. What kind of has that kind of been like? Kind of like that initial like kind of you get something out on Steam and kind of dealing with that initial response.
Anxiety, pure anxiety. I think I've never done anything like that before where I'm this anxious to look at the first feedback, to have the first customers, if you want to say it like that, actually be honest about their opinion of your work that you worked 1.5 years to release for. And I actually was too scared to look in our reviews and in our discussion tab in Steam
Okay, we gotta
for the first weeks.
that discussion tab. The reviews actually stress me out
Yeah.
less than the discussion tab. That discussion tab stresses me way more because review it's this binary
Yeah.
thing of like usually it's a simple they do like they don't like. Sometimes it's some complaint you could talk about. Like I think reviews tend to be a little cleaner. Where the emotions tied to like a discussion post and how out of hand those can get very fast is always just so stressful.
Yeah, also because you have to respond. If someone actually takes their time to make a discussion post and is like, hey, I have this list of bugs I encountered in my first playthrough, um, you can't just be like thumbs up emoji and that's the end of the discussion. You really need to go into the conversation with this person on the other end, and they are mostly we didn't have any one post anything nasty until now, um, which is very blessed for our team, but it's always a little bit of a mountain to climb to be able to look at those. And I completely agree with you. The reviews are much less dangerous than any discussion posts, or in that case,
And
community Discord posts.
all the feedback is valid. Like all this is valid in different methods, but I just kind of noticed a trend of the people who like are willing to go in the discussion boards tend to be the people that like it's always the double-edged sword of like they're the people really into these experiences or your game, but like the problem with that is sometimes you get great feedback for it, and sometimes you're like this is too much or this is just like it's always that weird line of feedback of like I like that old saying where they talk about when someone complains, don't listen to their solution, listen to their problem. Because like they're correct. There's a problem here if a lot of people feel this way. But like solving these problems usually just aren't the way that people think they should be solved. And you always have that problem too of like, do you start getting pushback, especially with you guys being an early access game too. What
So if I could quickly go onto that real quick, we actually have a request. Our first request for a feature was something we will never really implement into the game because it's not in our vision for the gameplay style, really. And oftentimes the difference in perspective. So you have a player with a player's perspective doing a discussion post, and I'm looking onto this discussion post from my developer's view, basically. And these views often contradict each other because even if it's just a bug, I have, as a developer, a completely different approach to bugs than the players. Because we all know, as a developer, if something breaks, most of the time it's not actually the thing you notice breaking that's the problem, but something much earlier in line. And that's always difficult to convey in a post so that the player understands what you actually want as a developer, I think.
Yeah, that's interesting. What was kind of your guys' line going into early access of having a roadmap versus that roadmap basically being blown up once you guys entered early access?
We had a roadmap to the different conventions, and I'm actually the project lead of Calling Home as well. And I'm very much into setting milestones, having anticipated feature bundles be released. And that only hardened actually when we went into early access. So before it was like, didn't make the milestone to 100%, but I don't know, 90, 95%. We just used 2 weeks 4 weeks more on this milestone and it's fine. Now we really want to have a 2-month update cycle. So we have this kind of pressure built on top of us to really be like, okay, it's in 2 weeks and we don't have another week to put on top of that. We need to be ready when this feature should drop. And until now, it's working out. So our first big update comes in February, late February.
Okay. Okay. No, that makes sense. You guys are doing the bigger. You guys are doing kind of like what, quarterly updates is your goal? Then what's kind of your cadence? You're kind of looking at stuff like this.
Every 2 months. So every sixth of a year, if someone wants a fraction. But we thought about quarterly, but we work so much on the game, and the game changes so much in 1 quarter of a year. Even now, we have a update that's visually and gameplay wise so different in just 2 months between release and first update that if we wanted to do an update in a quarter year time frame, it would just be too much. You could not really market such big updates for such a small game, basically.
Yeah, no, it's valid. Let's kind of jump in. We've kind of just talked around, I think, more mechanically about the game. Let's kind of jump into what you do, right? So as we said, it's a simulation. It's a resource management game at the end of the day. But you guys kind of have some fun twists on it. Kind of talk about it. Would you mind kind of walking through what? Let's start with where is the player and kind of what are they? What's the resources? What are they kind of interacting with?
To catch everyone at point zero, basically, the elevator pitch is Satisfactory meets Subnautica. So as you said, we are a resource management game at the moment mainly, but we try to manage to have an adventuring side to the game. And the player starts out on a alien planet. And the first task is to re-establish communication to the mothership. So basically, we were stranded, we got attacked, we had an accident. We're not quite sure on the initial story beat there, but the result is we crash onto this planet. We only have our trusty advisor Mars, which is a small little robot with cat ears on our side. And our goal will be to firstly reestablish communication and then maybe call home. There is the very creative origin of our game name, and be able to go back to our fleet and go back home, basically.
Okay, no, that makes sense. So that's interesting. So it's a management game with some sort of end state, right? Of heading back home. How did you guys kind of balance that kind of line of like? Because I feel like games like this kind of really like get big and kind of take off because it's kind of this open nature-y kind of part of it. But obviously, as you just said, there's some sort of like true end goal going on here. I'm kind of curious how you guys kind of balance that open nature with the like making sure the player has something they're aiming towards.
That's basically our USP right there. One day I was playing Factorio. All simulation game fans know exactly which game I'm talking about, or even Satisfactory in that regard. And I noticed that a lot of times, even if I try to play optimally, I have a lot of time left on my hand. So I'm just waiting for my refineries to process my ores or just generate more energy to do more stuff, basically. And if I were to explore the world always seemed kind of empty. It's more or less, okay, I'm just going out of my base to gather more resources to implement in my base. And our idea is that the balance of our game is that you can go resource management. Um, and if you're at the point where you need to wait for anything to happen, you can just be like, okay, um, I have time on my hand, or even I don't want to automate my base anymore right now. I just go into the world and explore it. We want our world to feel alive. That's what we are working on mainly at the moment, to further establish this adventuring part of our game. And the player will be able to find artifacts, find ancient tablets with text on them, background stories for a planet specifically, for example, an old civilization that's long gone, something like that. And while adventuring, finding new recipes or new ways to automate your base as well. So you have this relationship between the adventuring part that furthers your progress in the automation part of the game. And then you can automate resources with upgrades for the player to enhance your ability to explore the planet further. So you're always switching between those modes, basically.
Yes, that makes sense. It's almost like a parallel game of the collection and the using and resource. Okay, that's interesting. Let's kind of talk about. Obviously, you guys are a big thing for you guys is crafting and kind of making these systems. How I'm trying to think. So, from a player's point of view, right? As you said, you're collecting, kind of making these tools akin to as you talk about these strategy games, which I'm somewhat familiar with. How did you kind of as and the team think of like onboarding and the challenge of teaching players stuff? Because to me, a lot of games like this have a continual problem of the system may work great, and once you're there, it makes sense. But teaching players seems to be very hard, and kind of making sure they actually understand what's going on. How did you guys kind of handle those problems?
Currently, we have a hard tutorial. So basically, you spawn on the planet, and your first task is to gather resources to further produce them with handcrafting. And later on, you need to build your base. We follow the two-step tutorial rule. So if you want your player to learn anything, you need to teach them twice. The player gets the task to collect resources 2 times. The player gets the task to produce or smelt the ore that they're gathered to iron bars 2 times in a row. Not 2 times in a row, but 2 times overall. And until now, we had a mixed result of efficiency with this tutorial. Most beginner players like the tutorial being there. Most advanced players are a little bit bothered by it because they are like, okay, but I want to do it my way and not follow the tutorial to a T, basically. And we are working on a pop-up based tutorial. So the first time you spawn on the planet, you get like a pop-up. You can collect resources like that, and then if someone is interested, they can click on the pop-up, and if they've done it, the pop-up is in a backlog. So if they forget anything at any point, they can look back on it. But the crafting itself will always be a challenge in those kinds of games. So if you're new to facility and resource automation games, you will need to read a little bit in the beginning, but we think that our crafting is not simple enough that would understate the complex nature of the genre, but I think new players will be able to get our crafting path because it's mostly based on stuff the player will know how to combine with another. For example, lithium and copper is the most obscure recipe, I guess, because not everyone knows that lithium and copper can make a battery. But yeah, it's a little bit more logical than some of the other recipes you might see in other games,
I
I
was gonna
guess.
say like that is still a rougher probably for a lot of people, but like I could see the logic train on that one. It also it isn't like super uncommon at least of a knowledge thing. Where I do feel a lot of games, even like Minecraft, at its points, you get to like crafting and you're like, I don't understand logically how this goes from A to B. Like, like some of this stuff's always a little questionable. Um, One of the things with you guys though that I think do things interesting is because you guys are very, I want to call it system heavy, right? But the idea is you're factory building and making those kind of systems. How did you?
Sorry.
I was gonna say with like the building part of like when you're creating more of these tools or creating more
Ah,
the like bigger systems you're kind of making in the game. Where did you guys kind of think of this balance of should the player be stressed about needing more resources versus it's more just relaxing and they're kind of aiming towards their goals?
our main goal is always for a relaxing experience. We want the player to be able to determine their resource heaviness in the future. So you have a slider like in many other games, how many resources should actually generate. So the difficulty can be optional in the future. But for right now, we always try to have a cozy game vibe. And if we implement systems, it's more or less don't think too much about it, because if we spend like 2 months designing a system and then try to implement it and it's not good, we more or less wasted 2 months. We always go with our gut instinct on such things. So we plan something out, test it, and then iterate over the system before it gets live. And even if it's live and we get the feedback, hey, it's all cool and all, but recipe step XY is way too tedious, or I'm still waiting for step X to complete, we will go over it again and try to balance it around a cozy game vibe in the end, because that's where most players will find their happiness, I guess, in those kind of games. Building big industries, building big automation cycles, and um, more or less bigger, better, more and more resources.
No, that makes perfect sense. I gotta ask you, when you have been playing or experimenting with different things you can make in this game, is there anything that you have made that you're really proud of, or some sort of tool like that that really stands out to you?
Um, uh, there are some tools that I'm mostly proud of. I learned a lot from grass. It's something no player will ever understand how tedious it is to get right. Um, Grass in video games is some of the most horrendous shit to program, but also some of the most rewarding things to get right, because you change one variable and your performance is in the gutter, basically. And besides the optical grass kind of milestone, I guess my favorite system is our current understanding of how we generate the planet, so the planet generation itself. Um, there's a meme in our company that's when everything is done, Leon will start working on the next iteration on the generation system, because I revamped that generation system 4 times already. It's the planet generation system 5.0 at this point, and there's so much stuff there. We completely use out every inch of graphic card memory we can get. We optimize the whole generation of the different chunks that the player can explore. There's different biomes that get mixed together and are generated differently every time the player loads a new world, and all over the place optimizations and nifty tricks how do we get the information back that we calculate on our graphic cards, and so on and so on. I think that's more or less the part we put in the most work in the last year or so, basically.
Wow. No, that sounds great. As we get to the tail end here, I do want to give you the floor. Right, so we've been talking about Calling Home, which is currently on early access, available now on Steam for $19.99 USD. Is there any feature, is there anything in this game, is there any system, anything that you feel, or even just a closing elevator pitch here of why people should go check out Calling Home?
Of course. Mostly check it out now. It's at a state where it's kind of rough around the edges. It's right out of tech demo progress, I would think. But you have a once in a lifetime opportunity to work with us on the game itself. So the price you pay now is not only for the game, but you can try it. You can contact us on any platform. We have community Discord. We want to work with our players on features, on requests, on everything they can and want to have inside of the game itself. And besides the obvious nature of, hey, we think our game is a very good resource manager, so every other company will tell you about their game. We are really proud on our way to progress the game's development state. As I said earlier, a new patch will drop in February, and it will be a good patch. So you will eat good for the next few months, because every time we want to add something different, something new, something exciting for the players to see. And this is not a project that will be released and then we just leave it on as a half-assed game. This will be a game that will be developed further into the future as long as we can manage it. And Calling Home has the potential to be the next big resource management game if you guys believe in us, basically.
Perfect. Well, again, I want to say thank you for taking time out of your afternoon to talk about the game. Again, it is Calling Home. You can currently go check it out in early access on Steam. As you said, new update coming for it in February. It is currently just under $20. It's at least worth at least going to see if you're interested. Again, I want to say thank you for talking to me today, and best of luck as you guys are finishing up development.
No problem. Thanks for having us. We're always glad to be able to get on podcast streams or any sort of nature like that.
Well, thank you again. The SWW show and all of its affiliate podcasts are podcast by me, Mike Maroney, and AJ Losi, sometimes by our contributors, including Corey King. You can follow the SWW show on social media at the SWW show, or sooner or later you go to patreon.com/SWW to help us out. Thank you, and we hope you enjoy the rest of your day.